and thanks for joining us on another edition of Two Guys and a Lot of Wine. I'm Bobby P.
And I'm Rocky Holland.
And we're joined by a very special guest of a friend, both of Rocky and myself, Mr. Peter Oades, wine enthusiast. And thanks for joining us, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And it's our end of summer show, guys. So we figured, Rocky and I figured we're going to go big. And we're going to do something we haven't done in many, many years. We're going to compare an expensive bottle of wine against a similar varietal that is probably under $10 or close to that. And we're going to start with Chardonnay, and then we're going to work up to the Bordeaux region of France.
Okay. Do you want to start cheap and go expensive, or do you want to start expensive and go cheap?
Rock, what do you think, Peter? Cheap and expensive?
I think so.
I think cheap and expensive.
I think so.
Okay. So you have yourself a... I'll hand that down there.
We try to do small pours to start because you never know if it's going to be good. Now, what could you tell us about this one, Rob?
Nothing. So here's my original plan was Bordeaux, and I realized at the last minute that you sent me your pictures of Bordeaux, so I didn't want to go Bordeaux if this was going to be the format, and we end up with four, potentially now 5 Bordeaux's. So I said, I'm going to try to find something in my fridge that is, what were we saying, north of $30. This one runs around 40. And then I didn't have, this is from the Columbia Valley. When we went on college visits last year, we went through Washington State. And I went to a tasting room that had this one. It was really good. Columbia Valley Chardonnay. Well, I didn't have a cheap Columbia Valley Chardonnay. I didn't even know where to find one. So I just rolled over to Total Wine, figuring they've got to have something in there. So this guy, I have no idea about it. I just walked up to him. I said, I need something in the $10 to $12 price range. Columbia Valley Chardonnay. It was the only one that they had. It's called Wild Haven. And let's hope it tastes as good as it sounds.
Is it also French oak, like the more expensive one, or is this steel?
I'm going to say that this wine, given the price, is probably steel barreled. They really don't oak it a lot in Washington State, but I'll tell you in one moment if it's oaked. If my nose knows, it's got a little bit of a.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not a huge Chardonnay fan. At least I'm not an American Chardonnay fan.
I'm not either.
It's got that typical California buttery-esque
That's got
type,
some oak, yeah. That's got some oak and some malolactic on it. So they're trying to be Central Coast Chardonnay. It is very coats the mouth.
Sure
right?
does.
It's like cough medicine, kind of coats the mouth. It's not offensive. This is not in my wheelhouse. This is wine that I hate. But for what it is, I think it's actually they're doing a pretty good job of being California.
I'm not a big Chardonnay fan, but actually, I think it's fine.
For the price tag, again, $10 to $12.
It's one of those wines, like I said, I very rarely will ever get an American Chardonnay. But if you are at a party, and a lot of times they sometimes only have Chardonnay, because women seem to love the Chardonnays, this is the kind of Chardonnay you definitely want to have some cheese or something with, because it's just a little too much for just to drink and talk socially, at least in my opinion. I think it would go fine with certain cheeses and crackers, and if you're just sitting at a table, that's just a conversation piece. But, I mean, it's certainly not bad. There's nothing bad about it. But like I said, I think it's just that coating in the mouth that...
It's like if you ate a butterscotch candy.
And not as bad as some,
and it leaves that kind of butterscotchy flavor in your mouth. It's got a little bit of like kind of lemony, ripe apple. What else would you say? Anything?
I think that's a good way to put it. It's a little butterscotchery. Again, for someone who's not a Chardonnay fan, it's fine. It's like an everyday drinkable wine.
And it's not overly cold either. So this has been sitting for a little bit, Rocky, right?
Yes, it has been. You know what I did is this time around I decided, because we always serve these things and put a chiller on it, we serve them ice cold, and you really miss out on a lot of the flavors and kind of being able to tell what's going on in there. And then we try it later at the end and we're like, oh my gosh, it's got pineapples in it now, and it's got all kinds of. So I decided not to get these refrigerator cold right off the bat here today.
I find it amusing though, Peter, that Rocky, he does this all the time. He took a chance and poured a bigger glass pour for himself.
He did. I noticed that too.
And there ain't no way he's finishing that. I just can tell you right now he's not.
I don't want to, because it's not terrible. But this is a lot of people would love this. I think the majority of your United States wine consumers in the Chardonnay camp this is exactly what they want. It's not what I want.
I think so too.
And it's a reasonably priced point. You said it's under $12.
Go ahead and pour this into my Initech cup.
You said it's under $12.
Yeah, it's under $12. Yep.
So this is the end of
Not
the summer
bad.
show. So I mean, anything on the table here, I think, is drinkable the whole rest of the fall and winter. So this doesn't necessarily have a theme. It's just it's the end of the summer. It was a good summer to a certain extent, not as good as last summer. Rocky, I know we had a lot of good wine this summer, not as much as we had the previous year, I think. But we'll see what the winter brings, and anything on the table is certainly servable for the fall and winter. So this isn't a seasonal show per se. It's just something different.
It's kind of tough because when we film these, we film them in anticipation of the next month, and so we're anticipating next month being late September. What's the real theme? You're kind of getting out of rosé, into maybe kind
Zin,
of red
maybe a
wines,
Zinfandel or
and
something.
so you can go either way right now, and. That one, we always say we have thumbs up, thumbs sideways,
This is going to be an
thumbs
arthritic
down.
sideways.
I'm gonna-
Arthritic
I'm
sideways.
going to go sideways as well.
I'll go sideways because for me it's a thumbs down, but for what it is at that price, I think it's kind of a thumbs up. So it's a thumbs sideways if you factor all of that in. That's the best
I'll
I got
accept
for
that.
it.
All right, so that was interesting. So now
All right, so
we're going
now
to jump up in price point
we'll
by
go
almost
up.
three times, three times, right?
So
4
this
times?
one, like I said, this is not available locally. This is only available from the tasting room, or you can buy it online. And again, it's right around the $40 price range.
And that's what this episode's about. We're looking at a wine that is over $30 more than the one we just had.
Yeah.
And it's French, right?
Well,
I'm
we
sorry, not French. It's aged in French oak.
This one is aged in French oak, yes. It is aged in neutral French oak, so it's not going to get a whole lot of that buttery butterscotch. I'm going to
But it doesn't even have as strong as aroma as the first one.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not like a butter bomb right out of the glass for you.
There we go. I mean, that's the French oak. Just making love to my mouth already. That's just a whole different Chardonnay.
Very. Yeah.
It's
It is amazing what a difference.
That's what you can't say, and I used to do this years ago when I first started the show. My former co-host, Jim, he knows I hate Chardonnay. He says, you got to try different Chardonnays, Bob, because they're all going to taste different. Not all of them are butter bombs.
Yeah.
And you start aging Chardonnays in French oak, and you get the French Chardonnays, which I now do like. This is fantastic. This is really good.
It's this would be very good with shellfish. You're not a big shellfish fan, are you?
No, I'm not.
So, okay.
You're right about
Trying
that.
to think of something else in kind of the in that category. I guess it would be good with cheeses. Actually, I'm going to reach over you and we'll see how it is with this piece of cheese.
Unlike cloying,
I'll
which we
follow
sort of
your
said
lead.
the last one was, this is smooth.
Yeah.
It's almost like a nice brandy, though obviously it doesn't have that kind of alcohol, but it's very smooth on the palate. It doesn't sort of just coat it. It's just
That
sort of-
last one, when you're trying to evaluate kind of like they call it the mouthfeel of wine, you want to compare it to milk, skim milk versus 2% versus whole milk. I'm going to say that last one was all the way up into like the half and half. That one was a really, actually half and half I think has less viscosity. So I'm going to go with whole milk for that last one, and this one's probably closer to the 2% milk kind of viscosity, I would say.
So we've done blind tastings before. We've had expensive wines, and the things have been covered on the table. And a lot of times, because sometimes I think we talked to you, Peter, when we saw you at the party. I saw you at the party.
Yeah.
That your mind says, well, the more expensive one's always going to be better.
Right.
And blind tastings sometimes are really good for a person. So we're not doing a blind tasting, but I think it's fair to say there's a distinct difference in these two, but not based on price, I don't think, based on how they were made and the different types of
Yeah.
Chardonnay that they are.
Yeah, I mean, in a blind tasting, you can definitely tell the difference between the two, and I would certainly go for that one. Not that I didn't like that. I think that's an everyday good wine,
Yep.
but that's a step above. For
Sure is.
Yeah. Yeah, if I was tasting this blind, honestly, this first one I would have said it's just mass harvested stuff from Central California or like San Joaquin Valley kind of thing. This one, I probably would have blind tasted this and said it's Napa Chardonnay because it's just got a nice. You can taste the French oak, but it's smooth and it's everything that I expect out of California Chardonnay. That's in it, and I guess the price, at around $40 is not terrible. So.
No.
It's not terrible, and I think this is an example of, and once again, you Chardonnay lovers, I don't consider myself a huge Chardonnay lover or as knowledgeable as Rocky is, but this is an example where there's a distinct flavor difference, and in my humble opinion, one is much better than the other. So,
Yeah, and if you had to name you quit drinking it, but fruit profile on this one, a little more on the lemon end and maybe like a green apple kind of.
Very, yeah, lemon and green apple. I was prone to say apricot, very mild apricot,
Yeah.
because my palate always seems to pick up apricot a lot of times on white wine. But like I said, the flavor profile of that wine we just tasted it's just smooth. It's just, everything works together.
Yeah, nothing overpowering.
No, yep.
And that's what makes a good wine, is if it's well balanced. You want everything to kind of
Yeah.
work in harmony with each other. And I think they did a good job with this one, which is why we signed up for their wine club when we were there, which this is the last one that we have from that wine club. We actually have a Cabernet from that one too, so maybe we'll have that on one of these shows.
Well,
Nice.
that one's a thumbs up, Rock. You're getting a big thumbs up on that.
I would give this one a thumbs
Yeah,
up.
Yeah.
I'd go with that.
Yeah.
So we're going to move from California, now we're going to go to France, because France, I love my French wine. And we're going to start with the Chateau Cantaloupe, and that's a 2015, is a 3 varietal red. I should have wrote it down, but I do have it on my phone. And it's a Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and a Merlot blend. And
So
this
this
actually is the cheaper of the wines, red French wines that are on the table. Actually, I'll have you guys start down there. And I am
This is
aerating.
probably left bank. Let's see where this is from. The Bordeaux. I'm trying to figure out what region.
I did have that on there. It is from.
Does not say.
From the Blé Côtes de Bordeaux. None of us really speak good French.
All right.
So as I said, I am aerating both these wines, both the cheap one and the more expensive one. And Peter's wine we did not aerate, but I have a feeling it's going to be good without the aeration.
We will see. Hopefully.
All right. And I would always recommend aerating most red wines, especially French wines. This is a nice little top or a little thing inside that just adds a little air to it, which I think works great most of the time. And that is a very interesting color.
That is a
That is-
dark
it
color.
is.
I'm a little concerned at this. This is brown. No, it's not bad.
No?
When I see that color, I automatically think it might be oxidized, but doesn't smell it.
Very dry. Mm-hmm. Almost a little too dry.
Yeah, I don't think this wine. What's the vintage on this one?
2015?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of oxidation going on.
I think it's a little bit of oxidation.
Yeah, a
That's-
little
that's probably what
raisiny
it's called.
quality that I'm getting. It's not poured out oxidized, but I think it does have.
It's getting there.
Yeah, this is definitely something that you would not want to sit on for another 10 years.
Well, that's a good point, because a lot of times people think you can sit on red wines for a long time. And I think, Peter, you sell her a lot of wines,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you probably know, just like Rocket, does that seem like it's maybe just slightly past its prime?
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely a age limit to some of these.
I think that, if you look at the color of it, a wine that is this much of a kind of a brick color, you would almost expect it to be north of 15 to 20 years old. And this one is not. So some oxygen has gotten in, a little bit more oxygen has gotten into that bottle than should have. It's not completely tainted, but I'm going to have to say that this is not something that...
Right, you know what, you made a very valid point. I should have noticed that as soon as you saw the brick color. You're right, that brickish color you do get as you get something older. I think when we get to the next one, which is a 2011, I think you're probably going to see this color in that bottle, but I think you're going to see a different flavor. I think because the Chateau de Pez, I have a couple of these left. I've had one maybe a year ago, and it has that brickish color even from a year ago.
Yeah.
But it tasted fantastic.
Yeah.
But once again, this is an example. I have the bottle turned wrong. You have these two French wines from similar regions. They're not too far apart. I think I said what the grapes were: a Cab, a Franc, and a Merlot in this one. The next one we're going to be tasting after this has those same three, but it has I think it was the Petite Verdot, yep. And Petite
Give a little
Verdot
punch.
and a Malbec. So it just has two different other grape
Oh, wow.
varieties in it. So
Okay,
Interesting.
You don't see a lot of. So I'm trying to remember the big six are in order of tonnage crushed. Merlot is number one in Bordeaux, and then you go to Cab Sauv, then you go to Cab Franc, Petit Verdot. Merlot and I believe Carmenere are the last two, and they comprise less than 1% of the actual growth in that region. I don't know that. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a a bottle of Bordeaux that had
Oh, well, I'm very excited.
Malbec in it. So
I hate to be
kinda
biased,
cool.
but I think you're going to like it. So once again, the Chateau Cantaloupe, which I bought like a half case probably about 4 years ago, is another example, and Peter and Rocky just said, I should have probably drank these maybe 2 years ago and not sat them quite long. It's not bad, but it's certainly nothing that is going to blow your socks off. It's just a dry.
That's a good way to put it, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
So the next one is the Chateau de Pez, and it's a 2011, and we just told you what the grape varietal was. And you might want to use your cleaner glass there, Peter, because I got a little aeration on this one. This one has the more fancy electric one on
Switch
it.
up too.
These are great. Look this up on Amazon.
Very nice.
We love our gadgets here on the show. Do you remember our aeration show?
I do remember the aeration.
Do you remember
show.
what was going on during the aeration show? They were about to film the.
Was that the-
It was the last show before we shut down for a year.
Before we shut down, that's
And,
right.
Yeah, they had a show with an epidemiologist on after, and I was back here decanting wine while he was trying to read off of a chart about what was going on. We're like, it's no big deal. This is just something that's going on in China.
Don't
Come
worry
on
about
with your
it.
silliness. Let me decant my wine, and yeah,
All right, this looks pretty
good
good.
times.
This does look good.
Oh, sweet bimini. That's more like it. I think that's a classic example of something that is probably right around. I think you can sell this to.
What's the read? Saying a step. Okay.
I think you can sell that to at least 2025. So this has not.
Yeah, this is good. With Bordeaux, they call it the right bank and the left bank. This is the left bank. I think this is the northernmost appellation on the left bank of Bordeaux. And typically the ones on the left bank are going to be more Cab Sauv driven. The ones on the right
Right.
bank are more Merlot driven. And this is Cab. This is
You get that Malbec
solid
yet?
Cab Sauv. How much Malbec is in there?
Can't be a lot.
I don't know if it broke down.
I honestly don't know what Malbec is going to taste like in a Bordeaux blend because I don't know that I've ever had one outside of California.
Didn't break down.
Maybe.
I believe when they list them, it's the most. So Cab Sauvignon is probably the most, followed by the Cab Franc. Then the Malbec is third,
Okay.
followed by Merlot
All right.
and Petit.
So what kind of price range is this?
So this actually went up a little. So I think I paid about 42,
Okay.
and I think if you try to buy them now, which they are so big, it's like 47, so they went up a little bit.
That's not bad.
So it's in the
14.
Yeah.
$40 to $47 Bordeaux. And this is the
It's a
kind
nice
of
wine.
It's the kind of red. If you're going to have somebody drink a French red with you and you're trying to explain it, this is a good quality red to have because I love a dry red wine. I don't like anything that's explosive in my mouth, and this does the job. I think it highlights the better quality of the French red over some of the lower quality. Unfortunately, we're not going to get the full comparison because I think, like Rocky said, that the Chateau Cantaloupe
Yeah, that one was a little tainted.
is a little tainted. But you never know until we do the show.
Yeah, I mean, we've not really had that many tainted bottles over the years, but it does happen from time to time. I think it used to be a lot more. The production of wine has gotten better, especially with cork, and in that there's a lot less corked wines and tainted wines, but it's still, I don't know what the percent. I think it's right around 2% of wines are corked. So still. So it's going to happen. You know,
Yeah, my cellar pretty much is constantly in the mid-60s, so it's like, it's not because I didn't store it properly, so you never really know until you actually open up a bottle. I'm sure, Peter, you have a pretty good extent. Yeah,
I've had that happen many a time.
probably had an expensive bottle too, right?
Yes, unfortunately. So
So
yeah.
what do you do in a situation like that? So you open a nice bottle of red and it's quite corked. Do you still keep it, or what do you do with it? I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, I mean, I will serve some of it and then let's move on.
Move on.
Yeah.
So once again, we've talked about French wine a lot on this show, and to me, the best way that I can describe French wine is it's not overpowering, it's subtle, it's very minerally, it's very soil driven, a French red, and it's just, to me, it's the kind of wine that literally I can sit, have a conversation, talk about something the whole night, and I not even have to eat any food. That's
Yeah.
why I like French wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I compare these Bordeaux varietals done in France versus done in California, the one thing that always hits me with Bordeaux is there's a cedar quality to it. I always taste cedar in Bordeaux, and I'm definitely getting it from this. And then the fruits just don't slap you in the face.
No, they
They're more
don't.
subtle, but they're well
Yeah,
integrated.
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And this is either one of them is good with red meat. kind of torn. I guess if it's a lighter red meat, I would prefer Bordeaux. If it's like an in-your-face steak with a whole lot of seasoning on it, maybe I'd go to Napa Valley.
Do you have a preference in your collection when it comes to reds? What has more? What do you have more varietals of?
You know, knowing we were going to do this, I've done some left bank, and it's surprisingly much better than I expected. So I'm becoming a big fan.
Do you have a lot of French wines in your collection?
I don't. I'm mostly California.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. We probably discussed this at the party, but I forgot you were more of a California red kind of guy. Well, there's so much good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good red wine in California. I think me and Rocky sometimes disagree, but I'm a big Prisoner fan. Prisoner wine.
And what we've been doing a lot too is Oregon Pinot Noirs, which
I love Oregon Pinot Noirs.
Yeah.
You can very rarely get a bad one. Even the bad ones are still pretty good.
Yeah.
Like pizza and this is a family show. I'm not going to say the rest of the same. Yeah.
So, Peter, we're going to go into your wonderful selection. And what could you tell us about, actually, Peter still has a little red wine in his, well, you can pour that out or use your other glass. So what could you tell us about the one that you brought in?
So I'm somewhat new to left bank, but knowing that we were going to do this, I thought I did a tiny bit of research. But, you know, I'm more interested in what you guys think, because this, you know, I kind of looked up, all right, so where's the best place to go? And
Can't beat Pauillac.
Yeah.
Some of the most expensive wines in the world come from there. That's why I'm giving myself a little bit of a, there we go. Sorry, Sandy, you're not here to tell me
That's
not
right,
to.
she's not here to yell at you
She's not
tonight,
here
that's
to
right.
point
Yeah.
her finger at me.
so I have not tried this before.
Beautiful color.
We'll see what it tastes like.
Beautiful color.
Beautiful nose, too. Love that. Yeah, a lot of your heavy hitters in Bordeaux come from this region, and it's not a cheap region.
And there it is again.
Well, that's a question for you guys. So if you're going to do a left bank Bordeaux, like what's a good price range that you would want to do?
What do I want to do is
Or what-
I would love to have the
something
Lafitte
very nice.
Rothschild from
Yeah.
1984, maybe the 82 would work as well, 86. But I mean, if you're going to do it, I don't think you can really get south of $40 on most of these right bank Bordeaux's, and
I think if you're going to, like I said, we started this show years ago to keep wine under $20, but we've sort of progressed a little bit past that. And I think if you move into the region you're talking about, I think to start off, you want to definitely keep it under $50. Try to find that left bank in that price range under it, just to see if it's going to meet your taste. And if you do like it, then you can move up to the higher price stuff on down the line. But
Yeah.
I think you're going to find stuff between the $45 and $50 to start off.
Yep. What do you think of this?
this is good. This needs to be decanted for about 2.5 hours. This has got a lot of stuff going on behind it, but the unfortunate thing about Left Bank Bordeaux is that they really do need to be decanted for the most part. But even pop and pour, this one's good. This has got all the qualities that I want, and it's not so astringent that it's taken all the saliva out of my mouth.
No, it's not drying your mouth out
well
at all.
integrated.
You know, it's interesting, Peter. You probably go out to eat a lot like Rock and I do, and people always
We
forget
do.
this. Obviously, we all, sitting at this table, have a big problem paying the markup on wines that we know that what they cost. But if you do get a nice bottle of wine in a restaurant, say we got any one, yours or the other one that I have, the Chateau Pest, they just open them up. There's no decanting there. So,
Well, it depends on where you go.
well, if you're going out,
can ask
unless you
for
call
it.
them ahead of time, I mean, what are you going to do if they open up a $60 or $70 bottle?
Yeah,
of
they'll
wine?
decant it right there, and you'll get the decanting, but it's only going to be for 20 minutes till you
Exactly.
get halfway through. Yeah,
And I think you have to remember that. I think if you want to go out for a nice dinner and spend the markup, even on an expensive bottle of wine that's going to be more expensive, just remember, you're not going to get the decanting in a restaurant unless you either call them up ahead of time or you're planning on sitting there for a good 25 or 30 minutes before you take your first sip. And most people don't do that.
No.
So this is a wine show, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk. He is He's a really more of a motivational speaker guy now, but he got his start doing something called Wine TV. His parents owned a wine store in New Jersey, and he kind of took over and started evaluating wine on television. And on one of the episodes that he was doing, what he said is that for the wines like this, what he would do, and nobody knew this, but he would decant the wine for a couple of hours before the show, and then he would pour it back into the bottle and then start the show and do that. Now that's a lot of work for us for what we're doing here, but if we're ever going to do high-end Bordeaux's, that's something that we could consider. Just maybe decant it for a little while and then
And do
bring
a
it back out. Yeah.
blind tasting.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, I guess you could sort of bring I don't think restaurants would mind if you brought your own aerator in with the restaurant. It's not like you're bringing wine into the restaurant. I mean, this is serious. This is like weird, geeky stuff. But it's always been a pet peeve of mine that if I'm paying 3-4 times the price of a wine that's even a good wine, I want to decant it a little bit before I start drinking at the dinner table.
Yeah.
So. But we get our 2-minute wrap up here, and I just want to say it always goes by so fast. I think it's a pretty good learning show at least for us and me, that there is a significant difference, even though we got a little cheated with the Chateau Cantaloupe. That there's a difference in sometimes the pricing of wine.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why it costs. We didn't even ask what's the price point on these.
Mid-70s.
Mid-70s.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah,
See,
right
that's
there.
it. So
And I'll give it a
obviously-
thumbs up as well.
Yeah, the big thumbs up, the mid-40s, just under 50 for the Chateau de Pez, under $12 for the Chateau Cantaloupe. I think Rocky's first Chardonnay was under 12.
Yeah, right in the kind of 40s right here region.
And that was a nice Chardonnay.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of people that have come on this show and they're like, I never drink X varietal, but now it's like, this is cool. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Rocky's broken me in on a lot of different varietals that I'm never a big
I'll
fan
bet.
of.
That's why we're here, folks.
That's
We're
right,
trying
yeah.
to teach you that don't just stick with that same bottle of
You gotta branch out. That's what
Barefoot
wine's so great.
Moscato that you've been drinking for the last 10 years.
So, we're coming up to almost 12 years, I think. We just found out that our anniversary show is October, I think. 12 years ago, we filmed our first show.
Wow.
And so I'm not sure what we're going to do. We're going to do something for you guys. I'm not sure what it's going to be. We're going to look around and see. We're going to probably do a Halloween show, but whether or not that's actually going to be a theme in regards to wine, it's just going to be what goes good in the fall. I don't know. Rock, any thoughts on that?
Have we ever done a Halloween show where we dress up?
I'm not dressing.
I mean, I'll wear my Spider-Man pajamas here. I don't have any Spider-Man pajamas though. No. Yeah.
You can find them.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we are doing that yacht rock party this month, so maybe I'll do a
Maybe
Captain's hat.
some leftovers.
So
from
yeah,
that,
so Peter, I want to thanks for joining us. Thanks for
Thank
bringing your
you.
wonderful wine, Rocky. As always, great selection of Chardonnay, and thanks all of you for watching, making our show so popular and successful. And until next time, keep Rocky, Peter, me
in your wine cellar.